have in the studio this morning Sonia Bethel, our Medical Center Director, and Pat Ferrari, our mental health nurse. And we're going to find out what's going on and see what's new for right now.
Okay.
Would you like to start?
Sure. Yes. We're going to talk a little bit today about a familiar subject. We're going to talk about problems with sleep. The broad category is insomnia, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'll just start by saying, obviously, there are two levels of insomnia. We're going to focus most on the chronic insomnia, meaning that you have trouble with going to sleep for 1 month or more as a segment in time. Now, almost everybody, will experience some sleep difficulty for a short period of time, whether it be some stress, whether it be grief, whether it be something as simple as getting a new mattress. So you could have, short-term difficulty with sleeping. But when it becomes a problem for 1 month or more, then we start thinking about ways, to help you manage that. So insomnia refers to an issue with timing, meaning you have trouble, falling asleep. And then with duration, so you may fall asleep, but then you have trouble staying asleep. And then the other issue would be whether after you've slept, when you wake the next morning, whether you feel rested. So then that's an issue with quality of sleep. So you might say, okay, so what kind of things can be done to try and avoid this problem? Well, certainly it would be easy to just say, okay, I'm going to go visit my doctor and they're going to give me a pill.
Oh, yes, the inevitable pill.
Right, and everything is going to be okay. Well, the advantage of taking a pill is that, yes, it probably will produce, a very, quick time to go to sleep. However, the issue then becomes, well, what happens the next day after you've taken the pill? Some of that medication, that's a category of medicine is called hypnotic. So some of that medication stays in the bloodstream. So you may have trouble with concentration. You may have trouble with, general memory. It can put you at risk for falls. And so there are problems with just saying, okay, I'm just going to take this pill. And then there's cost. Fortunately, most of our residents, have, really good prescription coverage. So cost is probably not, a major concern. But if you, combine that with all the other medicines that you really have to take, if this is one less, medication, then I think that would be beneficial. So we'll think about, some ways that you can help yourself with sleep without just popping the pill. So one of the things you might want to think about is getting on a schedule so that you, try, there are going to be exceptions, but try to go to bed about the same time of day every day, okay? One other thing you might want to try to do is not to be too active right before you go to sleep. So on the one hand, you want to be active during the day so that you can be tired enough to sleep. But when it comes, say, an hour or so before bedtime, that's not the time to get that exercise in that you didn't get in earlier in the day, okay? Right. Other things that affect it would be things that you eat or drink. So that I think everyone knows that caffeine and related products, can certainly keep you awake. So you don't have that, that cup of coffee or, even some teas, have a lot of caffeine. You don't eat chocolate, and the kinds of things that,
that's so good.
Yes, but it's
that
a stimulant.
That cup of hot chocolate is just so good.
But it's a stimulant, and it can, have a deleterious effect rather than be beneficial.
Right.
And and alcohol, and a lot of people say, oh yeah, well if I take a drink, then I'm going to sleep. A small amount of alcohol might be okay, but then if it gets to be an excessive amount, then it has the opposite effect. It actually tends to keep you awake, okay? Things like making sure that the temperature of the room is comfortable for you. Everybody doesn't want it to be 65. Some people need it to be 80 degrees in the room. So finding whatever that, that temperature is, and, the right amount of bed clothing and all of that is important. And only sleeping in the bed. So don't use that time to, work on your bills, or even watching TV can be, can have a deleterious effect on your sleep pattern. So those are some of the things that are just environmental changes that can help. The second category would be something like relaxation exercises, which Pat is going to talk a little bit more about. And then the third general category is something called cognitive behavioral therapy. So,
Okay, Pat, take over.
Well, I'll get to relaxation in a minute.
Okay.
What I want to focus on is something that Dr. Bethel did bring about, was the cognitive behavioral therapy. And the two pieces of that, as they seem to indicate, cognitive meaning the way we think about things, and a lot of the time we have different ideas about how we should sleep, the amount of time we should sleep, and we can build up kind of unrealistic expectations that we should sleep 8 hours a night every single night, and if we
Well,
don't
we've
do
heard that
that,
all our
the world
lives.
will end. So, one approach is to helping people look at what their sleep pattern is by doing what I refer to as a diary, a sleep diary or a sleep log, to get an idea of what the real situation is, how many nights a week they really have a problem. Sometimes people have a problem and think it's a bigger problem than it is, and it may just be several nights a week instead of every single night. The other piece of that is the behavioral piece. And there are a lot of things that regulate sleep, but two of them are our circadian clock and our sleep drive. And those two things together help more or less form how our day goes and then how our night goes. So the sleep drive is that the longer you've been awake, the more your body has the urge to sleep. And then the second piece of that, the circadian drive, is when your body is regulated by nighttime and daytime. So at night, your body is signaled by your brain to go to sleep because it releases melatonin and it helps it settle down. And in the morning, the melatonin turns off and you wake up, and that's all light and dark. So if you have a situation where you're staying in bed till 10 o'clock in the morning, you may be missing out on some of that sunlight, and so the circadian drive gets a little out of whack. And if you're staying in bed till 10 o'clock in the morning and then you want to go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night, you haven't had enough of that sleep drive. So a lot of strategies are geared toward your behavior during the day, your waking behavior, and then that helps regulate your sleeping behavior, because we can regulate our waking behavior a lot easier than we can regulate our sleeping behavior. So there are basically 4 rules that help determine what that is going to be.
Okay, everybody, get your pencils out.
Ready for the 4 rules?
4 rules.
Well, Dr. Bethel alluded to the first one, and that is to reduce your time in bed. So what that means, it may sound kind of counterproductive to some people to reduce your time in bed. They'll say, well, wait a minute, I want to sleep more. I don't want to reduce the amount of time I sleep. But what you want to do is reduce the amount of time in bed so that it more efficiently matches the amount of time you're sleeping. So if you go to bed 10 o'clock at night and you're in bed till 10 o'clock in the morning, and then you say, oh, well, I've only slept for 6 hours there, I can't get to sleep, and then I wake up, you have a 60% efficiency there. So if you're having a situation like that, you might want to stay up later, and tell yourself, well, I can't go to bed till midnight. And then if you fall asleep sooner, your sleep efficiency is going to be better. The second rule is to get up at the same time every day, because again, you're exposing yourself to light, you're increasing that sleep drive because you're making yourself stay up longer periods during the day, and then you'll be more likely to fall asleep at night. The third rule is don't go to bed unless you're sleepy. We often say, oh, I'm really tired, I was up last night, I didn't sleep well, so I'm going to go to bed tonight early. Well, that's all well and good if you're sleepy, but if you're just tired and you're not sleepy, you're going to run into the same problem, and you're just going to get into bed and nothing's going to happen, because sleep isn't really a voluntary thing. You have to be ready to go to sleep. So you have to build that drive during the day. And then the last thing is, if you're not sleeping, don't be in bed.
Don't try to go to bed if you're not sleeping.
If you're not sleeping. If you're not sleepy, don't go to bed. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep and you guesstimate you're there for 20 minutes, get up. Don't stay in bed, because we do make this association then between being in bed and being awake. And so we lie in bed and think, oh, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I can't go to sleep. And we start mulling over all these different reasons why we're not going to sleep. So don't go to sleep. Get up, do something else. Get your mind on a different thing entirely, something that's low-key. You know, don't put on the TV to a ball game where your team is, you know, on the verge of winning or losing, and it's going to increase your adrenaline, or a whodunit where you're on the edge of your seat. Do something calming. Read a magazine, read a book, have a low light that you're reading by. Do something that winds you down instead of wind you up. So those are different behaviors that you can do during the day. If people have a hard time falling asleep at night, relaxation really can help. If you give yourself the opportunity to just let your body respond to cues that you give it, because if you don't give your body something to think about, if you don't direct the way you're thinking, your mind will take over. It will go where it wants
Yes,
to.
very
And that
definitely.
will be all the plans of the next day, all the things you didn't get done the previous day. You know, you'll be worrying about the state of the world, the economy, anything that you've seen on the news will run past your head. So different forms of relaxation can help direct what we think. And, you know, I'm not going to go into a lot of different forms, but there are things like progressive relaxation, where you focus on different parts of your body and relax your muscles. There's a pretty easy way of relaxation where you just focus on your breathing and nothing else. Just let your body breathe and focus on exhaling, because the exhale is the part of your breathing where all your muscles relax. So there are different kinds of relaxation exercises to just get you in a state of mind where you can fall asleep.
Right.
And if that doesn't work in the first few minutes, then you get up.
Get up and do something else.
Get up and you do something else.
I know sometimes when I get my mind going on what I have to do the next day or what I forgot, I keep a pad and pencil next to my bed.
Excellent
and
idea.
just write it down, and then I
Then you
can't do
can let
anything
go
about
of
it
it.
now, so I'll take care of it later, but
That's
I won't
right.
forget it because I wrote it down. Yeah. Well, we're down to the last minute. What other words of wisdom do you have?
Well,
You mentioned something about flu shots.
I did, and I was going to try to tie in, you know, insomnia with that, but no, that doesn't work. So what I
well,
will
it
say,
might if people have forgotten to get
if
it.
they've forgotten to get it because they didn't sleep the night before. But if there is anyone who has not received this season's influenza vaccine, please note that we have plenty of vaccine available, and you can just call the medical center and say that you need an injection, and we'll, you know, get you set up for that. We're not having any more flu clinics. We did some additional ones
I
a
noticed
couple of
that,
weeks ago
yes.
to try to, you know, get folks who hadn't had one, but you can still get it, and please do get it,
Yes.
so you can stay healthy this winter.
Yes, very much. Thank you so much for coming in. I think your suggestions hopefully hit the mark, and people will begin to think, oh, I can do that and sleep better. Right. Okay, thank you so much for
You're
coming
welcome.
in.